Most men think they know how to please a woman. They've watched the videos, they've read the tips. They think it's about lasting longer, hitting the right spot, or moving a little harder. But let me tell you something that no one else dares to say. If all you're focused on is penetration, technique, and ego-driven performance, you're not even close. What she truly craves can't be Googled, it can't be faked, and it definitely can't be forced. Before you touch her body, you need to understand her soul. And that requires something most men never develop: presence, patience, and emotional strength. This isn't about being nice, it's about being awake. So, if you're ready to break out of the 90% who still don't get it, stay with me. What you're about to hear might just change everything. 1. The illusion of technique and the absence of presence. Men are obsessed with technique. They think if they just learn the right moves, the right rhythm, the right angle, she'll melt. They treat sex like a performance, a test, a box to check. But here's the truth no one told you. Technique without presence is like music without feeling. You might hit the notes, but you'll never move her. She doesn't want a machine. She wants a man who's there. A man who listens not just with his ears, but with his body. A man who pays attention not just to her moans, but to her silences. A man who can feel her, not just touch her. You can memorize every pleasure zone in her anatomy. But if your mind is elsewhere, racing, proving, performing, she'll know. And no amount of thrusting can make up for your absence. Presence is the most powerful aphrodisiac. It tells her, I see you, I'm with you, I'm not in a hurry. That's what calms her nervous system. That's what makes her open. And that's what awakens the part of her that no technique ever could. Stoicism isn't about being cold or detached. It's about being in control, being aware, being unshakable so she can finally let go. The body is a temple, but without presence, you're just a tourist. And no woman gives her soul to a stranger. 2. Her body is not a checklist, it's a universe. Too many men approach a woman's body like a checklist. Find the G-spot? Check. Kiss her neck? Check. Go harder, go faster? Check. They treat her like a puzzle to be solved, as if there's a magic combination of moves that will unlock her pleasure. But let me ask you this. Since when did intimacy become a to-do list? A woman's body is not a formula. It's not a routine. It's a living, breathing universe, mysterious, ever-changing, and profoundly emotional. And if you treat it like a manual you downloaded online, you'll miss the most important part: the connection. Real pleasure doesn't come from checking off boxes. It comes from exploring with curiosity, not control. From asking, not assuming. From discovering, not dominating. One night, she might want deep intensity. The next, soft presence and safety. Her needs shift, her energy flows. And if you're too busy proving you're good in bed, you'll never notice the silent language of her body calling you in. Stoicism teaches mastery over reaction. And this is where it matters most. To pause, to observe, to serve, not conquer. When you stop chasing results and start honoring the experience, you stop being another guy who knows what he's doing and become the man who actually gets her. Her body is not a checklist. It's a universe, and she's not waiting to be fixed. She's waiting to be felt. 3. Touching is not just physical, it's psychological. You can touch her skin and still never reach her, because real touch, the kind that makes her melt, the kind that awakens her soul, doesn't start with your hands. It starts with your presence, with your energy. with the way you make her feel before you ever lay a finger on her. Most men don't get this. They think arousal begins with stimulation. They rush in, focused on body parts, clueless that her mind is what unlocks her pleasure. If she doesn't feel safe, seen, and emotionally open, no amount of touching will turn her on. Her body might be there, but her soul is already miles away. You see, the female body isn't wired like yours. It needs time. It needs trust. It needs a sense of surrender that only comes when she knows you're not just chasing your release. When you touch her, do it with awareness, not expectation. With intention, not impatience. Let every gesture say, "You matter, I'm here, there's nowhere else I'd rather be." That's what disarms her defenses. That's what quiets the noise in her mind. That's what makes her body yours. Not because you took it, but because she gave it. Stoicism teaches us, control your impulses and you create space for deeper connection. Physical touch can spark desire, but only psychological presence can make it unforgettable. 4. The mind is her most powerful erogenous zone. You can master every technique. You can memorize the anatomy, know the angles, and even bring her to climax. But if her mind isn't turned on, you're just a body moving next to hers. A woman's deepest arousal doesn't begin between her legs. It begins between her ears. If her mind is cluttered, anxious, stressed, or disconnected, her body will shut down, no matter how skilled you think you are. You could be the best lover in the world and still leave her feeling empty if you fail to reach her emotionally. That's why seduction isn't just what you do in the bedroom. It's how you show up in every moment. It's how you look at her, how you make her feel seen without asking for anything in return, how you create space for her to soften, open, and surrender. True turn-on happens when she stops feeling like a body to be conquered and starts feeling like a soul to be cherished. Stoicism teaches, the man who controls his attention controls his world. And that couldn't be truer than here. When your focus is pure, when your presence is undivided, she'll feel it. And she'll respond. Not because you're trying to get something from her, but because you've become the kind of man her body wants to open to. Her most powerful erotic zone is her trust, and that begins in the mind. 5. The clitoris, the most ignored, most powerful point. Let's get real. You've heard of it. You might have even tried to touch it. But most men have no idea what the clitoris actually is, or how powerful it truly can be. It's not just a little button. It's not something you rub like you're starting a fire. The clitoris is the only human organ designed solely for pleasure. No reproduction, no utility. Just 8,000 plus nerve endings built for one thing, ecstasy. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, literally. What you see is only about 10% of its structure. The rest runs deep surrounding the vaginal walls internally, like a hidden halo of electricity. Yet despite its power, it's the most ignored part of her body. Why? Because too many men are in a rush to get to the good part, not realizing this is the good part. The clitoris doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence, to rhythm, to curiosity. And when you approach it with reverence and urgency, it unlocks a kind of pleasure that no amount of penetration ever could. Stoicism is about mastery, and this is where it begins. The self-control to slow down, the humility to explore, the courage to listen with your hands. Touch it like you're holding a secret, like you're honoring something sacred. Because when you learn how to truly awaken the clitoris, you're not just touching her body, you're setting her soul on fire. 6. Penetration is not equal to satisfaction. Let's say it straight. Just because you're inside her doesn't mean she's feeling anything. Penetration is not the finish line. It's not the grand prize, and it sure as hell isn't a guarantee of pleasure. Yet too many men act like once they've made it in, the job is done. But here's the brutal truth. Most women do not orgasm from penetration alone. Not because they're broken, not because they're complicated, but because their pleasure isn't linear. It's layered, emotional, and deeply connected to how safe and seen they feel. You think going harder, deeper, faster will do the trick. That's not pleasure. That's performance. And she can feel the difference. If she's tensing up, if she's going quiet, if she's mentally checking out, you're not pleasuring her. You're disappearing from the moment. Real satisfaction comes when she surrenders, not when she's enduring. Stoicism teaches us to resist the ego, to act with purpose, not impulse. So ask yourself, are you entering her to connect or to conquer? The difference is everything. When your intention is pure, when you're not rushing toward your own release, but devoted to exploring her rhythm, her energy, that's when the real magic begins. Penetration might be access, but presence is what creates impact. And that's what she'll remember. 7. Let go of ego, or you'll never touch her soul. Ego is loud, presence is silent. And when it comes to intimacy, only one of them truly reaches her. You see, ego is always trying to prove something, that you're good in bed, that you can make her scream, that you're not like the last guy. But all of that is about you. And the moment sex becomes about your performance, you've already left the room emotionally. A woman can feel the difference between a man who's with her and one who's using her to feel like a man. When your ego is in charge, you become outcome obsessed. You chase the orgasm. You chase the praise. You chase validation. But when you let that go, when you stop performing and start being, something shifts. She starts to relax. She starts to trust. And suddenly, you're not just touching her body. You're awakening something far deeper. Stoicism teaches us that a real man is not ruled by desire. He leads himself with stillness, with strength, and with presence. That's what makes you unforgettable. Not how long you last, not how many positions you know, but how deeply you made her feel, without ever needing to be seen as the best. When ego leaves the room, intimacy finally has space to enter. Let go of the need to impress, and you might finally touch what no hand ever could, her soul. 8. She doesn't want to be taken, she wants to be seen. You've been told that women want to be taken. That dominance is sexy. That if you just assert yourself hard enough, she'll melt. But here's the truth on that porn, movies, and insecure culture won't tell you. She doesn't want to be dominated. She wants to be understood. A woman doesn't crave force. She craves attunement. A man who can feel her energy shift without her needing to say a word. She doesn't want to be overpowered. She wants to be noticed. When she walks into the room and you truly see her, not just her body, but her mood, her emotion, her subtle silence, that's when she starts to open. Not because you took something, but because you created the safety for her to give it. True connection isn't about control. It's about presence. Stoicism teaches us to master our reactions, to lead ourselves before we lead anyone else. And in intimacy, that means slowing down enough to witness her, not as an object, not as a conquest, but as a human being complex, deep, and ever-shifting. When a woman feels seen, her entire nervous system relaxes, her guard drops, her passion awakens, Her desire becomes electric. Don't be the man who takes, be the man who sees. Because once she feels truly seen, she'll give you a version of herself no one else has ever touched. 9. The man she will never forget. Every woman has a memory, a moment, a man she still thinks about, not because he was the best looking, the richest, or even the best in bed, but because of how he made her feel. Not rushed, not judged, not treated like a checklist or a conquest, but held, understood, safe. He was the man who didn't try to perform. He was the man who simply showed up fully, honestly, and without ego. She remembers his breath on her skin, not because it was perfect, but because it was present. She remembers the way he looked at her, like she was a universe, not a trophy. That's what stays. That's what lasts. And here's the part no one tells you. You can become that man, not by trying harder, not by learning new tricks, but by unlearning the lies. The lie that sex is performance, the lie that pleasure is power, the lie that you have to take in order to be a man. Stoicism isn't about suppressing your desire, it's about elevating your intent. Be the man who listens with his whole body, who touches with purpose, who doesn't need to impress because his presence already does. And one day, when she thinks back on her life, she'll remember you, not because of what you did, but because of who you were while doing it. Conclusion: the wake-up call. If you've made it this far, you're not like most men. You're ready to unlearn, to evolve, to lead with something deeper than ego. And that's rare, because most will keep chasing tricks and tactics. But the man she never forgets, he's the one who chooses presence over performance. So now you have a choice. Keep living blind, or rise into the kind of masculinity that awakens, honors, and leaves a legacy, not just in her body, but in her memory. Be the man who listens, who sees, who stays. Because when you change the way you show up, everything changes.